In this video, I'll be sharing with you the best projects that you can work on if you want to become a Web3 or blockchain developer. These projects all look great on a resume, they will teach you a ton about blockchain development, and they're also fun and enjoyable to build. I've built almost all of them on this list. I really looked forward to going back the next day and kind of adding to the front end and making the contract better, and I think you guys will as well. Now, with that said, before I get into the first project, I will mention that almost all of these projects are included in my new course, BlockchainExpert. We just released this course. You can check it out from the link in the description. It's a great resource to learn blockchain development, whether you have experience or not, and we walk you through 5 fully guided projects, and 2 more are coming that use Chainlink, which I think a lot of you will find some value in. Anyways, check it out from the link in the description. Now, let me share with you the projects that you can work on to become a better blockchain developer. Alright, so let's dive into project number 1. Now, I've kind of put these in order of difficulty, so easiest projects first and then most difficult at the end, but some of them are kind of hard to rank, and it's just a different skill set that you need to have to complete the project. So project 1 is kind of the traditional project that I like to recommend to everyone when you're just starting out, and this is a bank account. Now, I know this is a little bit boring. People create these all the time. You can find all kinds of projects online that do this, but it's really critical to understand as you become a blockchain developer how to send and receive Ethereum in a safe way to a smart contract, how to maintain user balances, and if you wanted to get crazy, you could do stuff like having an interest rate on funds that were sent into the bank account, right? So if you're holding funds in the bank account, you get a very small interest rate like you would in a normal bank. You could additionally be charging a monthly fee. You could have a deposit fee for too small of deposits or lower balances, and you can kind of extend this and make it more complicated and a more fun project. Now, whenever you're building projects like these, especially anything you're actually going to deploy on a main network and let people use, you want to make sure that not only are you writing a smart contract, but you're writing automated tests for it. Now, in my course, BlockchainExpert, we teach you how to do this, and we test our contracts along the way to make sure they are secure and working properly. But I just want to make that clear. All of these projects, you should have a smart contract as well as automated tests. Now, once you've written a contract that you're confident in and it's working, the next thing you're going to want to do is write a deployment script that allows you to automatically deploy this contract to either a test network, which is probably what you're going to do first, or to a main network where you'll have real users and accounts utilizing the contract. Now, once you do that, what you want to build is some kind of front end or user interface so users can interact with the contract. Sure, it's great to be able to test it in Remix and kind of press some buttons and send some transactions, but ideally you want someone who knows nothing about the smart contract to be able to use this like it was a regular, just non-decentralized application. So ideally you go to some web page, you connect with MetaMask, and then you can just start depositing, withdrawing, checking your balance, etc., like you would on any other kind of bank account. So that would be my goal for this first project: create a bank account contract, test it, deploy it, write a basic front end to interact with it, and now you've learned how to send and receive Ethereum properly and kind of the life cycle of a blockchain application and blockchain development. Alright, so once you have finished your bank account, then the next project I'm going to recommend is creating a decentralized exchange. Now, obviously, this is going to be a more basic version than ones like PancakeSwap or other very popular ones you may have used before, but ideally, you want to learn here how to interact with ERC20 tokens, how to get approvals from users to kind of transfer their ERC20 tokens, and how to receive tokens within a contract. So you can create something very basic where, say, one user submits a custom ERC20 token to a decentralized exchange contract, then someone can buy that token or tokens at a specified price. That would be the most basic version of doing this. The next way would be to create something like a liquidity pool. Now, if you were to create a liquidity pool, what you would need to do is have an ERC20 token, which is your LP token, your liquidity pool token, and you would give that token to users for providing liquidity in your pool. Now, the liquidity aspect of the pool is different ERC20 tokens or Ether or whatever it is that you're providing as an asset. Now, that LP token should be gaining interest, which means that when you go to redeem your LP token later on, you're going to get paid whatever you deposited plus the interest amount. Now, to do this, you would have to learn more about decentralized exchanges and exactly how this works, but this is a really great project. It's not overly complicated if you do kind of a simplistic version of a liquidity pool, and you can learn, again, how to exchange and transfer tokens, how to actually do like a trade if someone wants to trade their Ether for a specific token or a token for Ether, etc. All right, so once you have learned about ERC20 tokens and implemented some kind of decentralized exchange, what I would work on is creating an NFT auction. Now, the reason you want to do something like this is not just because NFTs are great and everyone should go sell pieces of art, but it's because you want to learn about ERC721 tokens and specifically IPFS, which is your interplanetary file system. Now, in BlockchainExpert, I tell you all about this. I show you how to use IPFS and how to mint new tokens. Check it out from the link in the description. But this is something a lot of people are not familiar with and don't actually understand how to interact with. So when you're creating an NFT auction, obviously step one is create some kind of NFT. This is actually fairly simple, but what gets a little more complicated is when you have to store data on IPFS. You have to kind of learn about how IPFS works, how you store data there in a decentralized manner, and then how you retrieve that data later on when you're trying to display an NFT, the NFT attributes, the image associated with an NFT, etc. Now, once you've created an NFT contract and you've tested that NFT contract, the next thing you need to do is make an auction contract. And this contract should be able to auction any NFT, just like something like OpenSea does, right? So by doing this, you're going to learn about how to actually accept NFTs or ERC721 tokens into a smart contract, how to have a timed auction, how to have different bid amounts, how to select who won the auction, how to transfer that NFT back to them. And then, of course, you're going to have to create some kind of front end that shows you the auction going on. So you're going to want to log the different events when people are bidding. You're going to want to update users that they've been outbid. You're going to want to have the actual NFT image on the website. You want to show the statistics of the NFT. And then you're going to want to show expired auctions, history, sale prices, all of that kind of stuff. So you can go crazy with this auction project, or you can create a more basic version. But this is a really good one to work on. And personally, when I created this project, I found it quite interesting to learn about IPFS, learn more about NFTs, and get some insight into how popular kind of platforms like OpenSea actually operate. All right, so once you've created your NFT auction, the next project I would work on is a decentralized voting protocol. Now, this is where you're going to take your knowledge of IPFS and implement it into a decentralized protocol, or kind of a decentralized organization almost, where users are able to vote on different polls or vote for things to happen within, a DAO or within some kind of org or whatever you want to call it. So what I did for this specific project is I made it so that users kind of had to be a part of a group or an organization. They either had to pay to get in that group or be whitelisted to be like a part of the group. And then if they were in the group, they could create a poll, and that poll would have, whatever you're voting on. So like a description and then a bunch of options that people could vote on. Now, this data, since it was so large and maybe there was an image associated with it, I needed to store on IPFS. So I needed to store the description of the poll and then all of the individual options. So I did that, and then I had users be able to vote on all of the different options. So this meant I had to grab my IPFS data, display this on a front end, and then allow users that haven't already voted for this to, vote on a poll. I had an expiry date on the poll, and this was a way of, again, creating some decentralized voting and kind of like a democratic system in a sense. So again, I'm kind of oversimplifying it here, but I would create something along those lines where you have an organization of people who can vote on different topics or vote on different polls, and maybe those polls affect some kind of cryptocurrency, or they affect a token, or they change some property of a smart contract. You can do kind of whatever you want with that, or maybe you just have a vote and you can just kind of track the vote in a decentralized manner. That is what I would do here. If you want to learn more about that, of course, check out BlockchainExpert. All right, so once you have created those kind of projects, the next projects I would work on would be a bit larger and more complicated, but really show you what's possible to do with the blockchain. So obviously what I just showed you is great. Those are awesome projects. But what I would work on after this are larger projects related to Chainlink and using oracles, or related to kind of layer 2 solutions and games on the blockchain, which are more complicated to implement. So starting with the Chainlink project, first of all, Chainlink provides a oracle network. Now, what an oracle is a way of taking off-chain data, say like the result in a World Cup game, and bringing that on-chain so that you can then verify that in a smart contract and do something based on that result. So if you wanted to create a decentralized gambling platform or betting platform, you would need off-chain data like the result in a hockey game or the result in a baseball game or whatever it is, so that you can actually determine who won a specific bet. So this you would use Chainlink to do. I can't really explain it much more than this in the short video. You could, of course, check out BlockchainExpert, where we're about to have a Chainlink project that does something similar to that. But this is a really cool thing and shows you, again, how to take that off-chain data, bring it on-chain, and utilize that in a decentralized manner. All right, so once you have created your sports betting or gambling app or whatever it is that you want to create, I probably shouldn't be promoting that, but you know what I mean, right? Take off-chain data, do something with it on the blockchain. Just the best example is some kind of gambling stuff. After you've done that, what I would do is work on some kind of game. Now, the game that I would choose is something like poker or blackjack. The gambling games just make a lot of sense on the blockchain because you're actually dealing with money and sending money, but you could even do something like rock, paper, scissors, right? You can do something, whatever type of game you want, do it on the blockchain. However, since the blockchain is fairly slow and transactions take a very long time, this kind of does not allow you to have a synchronous game. You have to have an asynchronous game where people are constantly clicking buttons, and it's a really bad user experience. So instead of doing that, I would use a layer 2 solution like Rollups. Now, Rollups allow you to bundle a lot of transactions on layer 2 and then take them into essentially one bundle and submit them to layer 1 for validation and verification. So this lets you have kind of a live game where you're having all kinds of microtransactions occurring. All of those transactions get bundled, then submitted to layer 1, and that allows you to do things very fast and actually have like a live game going on like you would do in a traditional kind of centralized manner with a central server. Now, I actually have a video that goes more in depth about how rollups work and other layer 2 solutions to allow you to do this very fast transaction processing. So I'll throw that on the screen and put it in the description. But I would consider getting into this kind of stuff because that's really what the future of the blockchain and Web3 is going to look like, trying to replicate what we currently have in a centralized fashion, decentralized. And with the previous projects, you can't really have any live updating stuff just because of the delay and latency with the blockchain. But when you use a layer 2 solution, you can have very fast and live updating data that allows you to create some very cool and flexible games. If you want to learn more about blockchain development and become a blockchain engineer, then check out BlockchainExpert from the link in the description. It really is the best resource on the internet to become a Web3 and blockchain developer. We have spent a ton of time working on it. It has a massive amount of content, and after you go through that, I guarantee you'll be confident to create smart contracts and have some real practical projects under your belt. With that said, let me end it here. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you in another YouTube video.